Craig of Minnesota. She's the co-chair of the LGBTQ Equality Caucus. She's a member of the Energy and Commerce and Small Business Committees. Congresswoman Craig participated in that hearing that we showed you a little bit of on disinformation and social media. And I think, Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. I think that's going to be a good place for us to start. By the way, it's nice to be in your state here in Minnesota. Let's talk a little about that disinformation hearing. Social media has become the place where the big lie spreads. It's the place where the anti-vaccine information spreads. I was a little surprised that the CEOs of these tech companies were not prepared to be a little more forthcoming about the fact that their platforms, at least on some levels, have become cesspools for this bad information.
Well, it is very concerning, and it's great to be here with you this morning. We saw the CEOs of three of the biggest tech companies in America put their head in the sand and really refuse to admit what a critical role that their platforms are playing in disinformation and in hate speech across the country. And, you know, it only took 5 hours to have them really just duck and dive to unite Republicans and Democrats for the first time probably in the last 3 months.
What do you think needs to be done here? Because this used to be a problem of data privacy and some amount of disinformation that was undermining our voting. This has now become substantially more serious. It's spreading the lies that led to an actual insurrection and anti-democratic activities, this perpetuation of this fraud about voting rights, and now anti-vax stuff. I mean, this is affecting us on every level of our democracy, our society, and economy.
Well, I think what you're going to see both from the Democratic and the Republican side over the coming months is a real conversation around Section 230 reform. But I also think you're going to see a conversation about how do we need to regulate these big tech companies much more fundamentally. You're right, it's disinformation. A lie can spread so fast, just like the anti-vaccine movement, just like the big lie that said that the president's election was stolen from him. And, you know, this is a responsibility that the big tech companies are not living up to. The hate speech that they are allowing to disseminate across their platforms and their algorithms. I think we need to look very strongly at how they have built those algorithms. And right now, as I speak, legislation is being prepared both on the Democratic and the Republican side to much more fundamentally regulate this industry.
Representative Craig, we have a confirmed member of the U.S. government now, Dr. Rachel Levine, as the next Assistant Secretary of Health. You're the co-chair of the LGBTQ Equality Caucus. That's a huge, huge deal.
It is, and congratulations to Dr. Levine. Look, representation really does matter. I was the first member of the LGBTQ community to come from the great state of Minnesota. I'm the first lesbian mom to ever represent the U.S. Congress. We have 4 sons, my wife and I. And it really does matter that when people look up at their elected officials and the administrative folks, that they see themselves. And so it really, really is incredibly important.
Representative Craig, I want to ask you about this spate of anti-Asian crimes that we've seen in this country. There was a pretty quick coming together of Americans who maybe didn't even know that this was a serious matter, to acknowledge that it was and to sort of educate ourselves on what's going on with our Asian brothers and sisters. What has to happen next, in your opinion? Is this just a matter of public consciousness, or are there laws to be had or changes to be made?
I do. I think we have got to, first of all, make sure that that level of consciousness is there. And we've seen throughout the Asia-Pacific Caucus, AAPI here in the U.S. Congress, step forward, great members of Congress with legislation, and folks like my colleague Grace Ming, who really puts into human terms what this feels like for the Asian community, what it feels like for Asian children. And so I do think that there are some hate crime laws that we need to consider and make sure that we are fully enforcing. And more than anything, you know, we need our elected leaders to understand that words matter. And that's something that we continue to say to, frankly, our Republican colleagues, that words really do matter. When you attack the trans community, when you attack the AAPI community, you are attacking your constituents and fellow Americans at what makes this country great.
Representative, I just want to ask you, I'm here in Minneapolis because of the start of an historic trial on Monday, the killing of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police and Derek Chauvin. What are you looking for in this trial? This is going to be historic, and it is laden, it is polarizing. What are you looking for?
Well, this is going to be an opportunity for us to observe, to have an honest conversation about the police reforms that need to occur in this country. And at the end of the day, it's about accountability. It's about police accountability. And so we're going to be looking to make sure that there is, fairness for everyone, most importantly for George Floyd. I mean, when you look at that video, it is going to be really, really hard. But, this is America. This is the due process that is required in our country. And it's an opportunity, I think, for us to really hold police accountable when they do bad. And we'll see what happens here. And it's an honest conversation that I think we need to have with each other in this country about what's happening in racial inequality in our nation, in policing, and in many other areas.
Democratic Congresswoman Angie Craig of Minnesota represents the Twin Cities. Thank you for being with us this morning. Representative Craig is a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Join me, by the way, tomorrow morning for a special edition of Velshi Live from Minneapolis.